Curse of the Witching Tree. This is a low-budget British horror movie directed, written and produced by James Crow, and is essentially a haunted house tale. So the story here focuses on a young family. A mother, her teenage daughter and a young boy move into this kind of farmhouse after the husband is basically in a coma. And this particular farmhouse has a bit of a sordid history. Essentially, we are told that there was this kind of woman who was accused of being witchcraft, was hung, and there are kind of allegations of the murder of children, and it's tied into the kind of the Black Plague as well, obviously in years past. And this kind of family are experiencing, strange kind of visions and things weird things start to happen. The young son sort of becomes increasingly ill throughout the movie. So without kind of going into too much more plot, I'll kind of just give you a bit of analysis of what this film's like. So the first thing you'll have to remember here, this is an extremely low budget film. So don't be expecting anything like the Conjuring, which I think the kind of the packaging here is trying to kind of replicate. Nothing going to be like that. There's really no effects in this film. They try to do some sort of trick photography here and there, sort of quick cuts and things to try and give you the impression that there are kind of ghostly figures hanging around. But there's no actual effects as such. We get a little bit of fake blood and kind of mysterious writing, but it's all sort of off camera, and then you kind of pan onto it and it's there, that sort of thing. So this isn't going to be an effects driven movie. Story wise, okay, so let's get onto the positive side. So story wise, I think it's okay. I think it's not a massively original kind of story, this sort of typical thing. It reminds me a little bit of the kind of the Bell Witch in a way. So I think the strength here, I think, is primarily in the writing. I actually found the characters to be quite well written, and the act they're written like they would be genuine people, and genuine people of that type of age, if that makes sense. So I think some of the kind of the dialogue that is exchanged is quite realistic and quite typical of people in their kind of social situations and kind of their age and things like that. So I quite like some of the writing, and I think it's shot fairly well as well, again considering the budget. There are some issues I have with some of the technical side of it. I think the editing, first of all, is possibly not the best. There are some quite poor edits here and there, and some of the lighting choices as well, I think, are a little strange as well sometimes. The thing here, though, is the acting for me was kind of the most off-putting thing, and which is a shame because the characters are quite well written and quite likeable, but a lot of the acting is very, very subpar and kind of cringe-inducing, really. I mean, some of the actors are better than others. The kind of, I guess, the teenage daughter probably comes across the best. We saw her recently in the kind of the Silverhide werewolf movie, but even that didn't have fantastic acting. But there are some of the characters are, a lot of them are children, to be fair. And when you're kind of doing, child actors, especially ones in a kind of a low-budget horror film, you're really kind of playing a bit of a game of roulette in regards to their kind of acting abilities here. And unfortunately, the acting really does seem on the sort of cheaper side, which is a bit of a shame. Like I said, because this is not an effects-driven film, it kind of relies more on the kind of the atmosphere that it's building. But I think sometimes it maybe kind of steps too far in the realm of melodrama, where I think it could have made a bit more of an effort to kind of build up more of a kind of a spooky atmosphere, but was too keen to kind of get into kind of more arguing between the kind of the mother and daughter and things like that. And I think a little bit more could have been done in regards to trying to get just this eerie atmosphere, because I don't think it goes quite far enough. Also, what's the deal with the tree? I mean, we're told that the woman was hung in a barn, so I don't really understand necessarily the relevance of the tree, if I'm completely honest. I don't know if I'm getting that. But also the final shot of this film, why did they do that final shot of this film? It really kind of undoes a lot of the work that the movie did there. It's kind of falls into this somewhat typical sort of cliches you get in horror films. I really wish they hadn't done that. But I still felt it was a fairly well-made film, you know, fairly professionally put together, considering the kind of the budget constraints that this film clearly has. I think the story was, although it wasn't particularly original, was okay. I think it was, you know, a pretty okay story for a kind of a ghost story. Kind of reminds me a little bit of these sort of things you see on TV over sort of Christmas time in that respect. It's nothing it's bad, it's going to offend anyone. The real strength of this one, I think, is the way the characters are written, because they do seem, even though they're not particularly well acted, they do seem like that they are written to be real people. So that's the best thing about this movie, is the kind of the realistic manner in which these people are presented, even though sometimes when it comes in execution, you know, that they obviously seem like they're acting. So not a particularly horrific horror film by any stretch of the imagination, but I wasn't bored, and you know, I kind of enjoyed it for what it was. So if you can kind of look past some of the budget constraints here, then you know, you might enjoy it. It's a kind of a very lightweight sort of ghost story. I'm going to give this movie a 5.5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.